You're listening to the Final Say Radio Show, a Rappaport Media production, with your host Brett Rappaport and co-host John Rappaport.
We've got our good friend back on the program today, Leighton Steward, who's the chairman of Plants Need CO2, which I love, and he could explain that more. But Leighton, John, actually has some breaking news right now to share with us on the topic that he's discussing with us today. And Leighton, I'll let you jump right in and give us the breaking news.
Hey, good. Well, there's a group of ex-NASA scientists and a couple of astronauts. Most of them are the old Apollo group, but a lot of them are still bright, sharp. They decided, after I'd made a couple of presentations to them about 2.5 years ago, they decided to start studying climate change with great intensity and have done it now for over 2 years. And they've just come out with some conclusions and also some recommendations that are absolutely opposite of what our current administration and the Environmental Protection Agency seem to be wanting to do. So I'll be happy to run through these 8 or 9 things right quick, and then, Brett, I'll be happy to take questions or whatever anybody wants to do, or I'll just keep talking and talk about how the true environmentalists have been misled on this issue, because carbon dioxide is a life-giving substance that is great for the habitats, ecosystems, etc. Okay, so anyway, the first thing that they came up with, which wasn't a big surprise, is they said the science that predicts the extent of man-made global warming is not settled science, despite all these other claims you hear. The next one is really important. The models are seriously flawed. Even the modern climate models aren't getting anywhere close to what's really been happening on the Earth. After 35 years, some of these new models that have gone back and looked at what the data was 35 years ago and what's happened to the carbon dioxide levels since then, and what they have what those levels going up like that would project the temperature should be today, they have over-predicted the temperatures by factors of 200 to 750%. And so these guys and gals say do not expect better accuracy 100 years from now if they can't even get it for the next couple of decades. They've done a straightforward analysis based on the 163 years since the Industrial Revolution, and they've done this on real data, not using these flawed, unvalidated climate models, and that bounds the maximum probable amount of global warming caused by man-made carbon dioxide at only another 1.2 degrees centigrade. That's just over 2 degrees Fahrenheit. That is way smaller than what these much larger numbers are coming out of these unvalidated models. Some of these guys are model specialists. They did it to get our people on the moon. They did it to get them back from the moon. They did it in space station work. And these are people that are PhDs in astrophysics, physics, chemistry, geology, engineering, mathematics, etc. And they're happy to be working together again, and some of these folks are working 15 hours a day on this, and I would say that as bright as they all are, they do have the ability to look at all of this peer-reviewed science that's been coming at us lately. They say the government is overreacting to these concerns about man-made warming because there is no convincing evidence that man-made warming will produce catastrophic consequences before we run out of fossil fuels. They have demonstrated a more appropriate metric for this cost-benefit analysis that you hear talked about today, and the impact that rising CO2 is going to have on that and on actually other regulatory decisions. Also, the most current one, the social cost of carbon calculations that are going on, should be based on this empirical data and not, again, on these unvalidated climate models. Of course, the media loves these climate models because they produce catastrophic forecasts, and unfortunately, we all like to line up and watch catastrophic forecasts. I'm almost done on this. An independent and objective scientific review board should be convened to review this methodology for computing the social cost of carbon, because they've got numbers that aren't even at all reasonable. And the last one is, it is scientifically embarrassing to see our government refer to carbon dioxide as a pollutant. And then I'll add, from my geologic standpoint, without greenhouse gases, Earth's surface would be frozen. And without CO2, there would be no life on Earth as we know it. So I'm real proud of this bunch. They are objective. They're not working for the administration anymore, so they can say what they really believe. They're not getting paid 1 penny for doing this, and none of them are working for big oil or big anything these days. They're just trying to make another contribution to mankind because they all got a great sense of achievement when they put our people on the moon and brought them home a few decades back. So anyway, I was kind of happy to see this come out because you've heard some of this from me in the past.
Well, Leighton, I'm glad you informed us of this, and I'm assuming that these people also are not running for office and don't have political agendas either. You mentioned they don't have economic agendas. And
they have a website. I need to give you that because I don't want you to just take my word for it. Go to their website. Go to www.therightclimatestuff.com.
Oh, I love it.
You can see
the
that's
right
a takeoff on the
it.
movie, but it's the same bunch of guys. I mean, these are the guys that put those astronauts in space and brought them home. www.therightclimatestuff.com.
Excellent.
Yep, I just typed it into our chat room.
Perfect. So I'm going to play a really quick suspension of disbelief game with you. When you look at climate science from a historical measurement perspective, you could almost say that given the crop production and how many people are on this planet, that whatever trend we're on seems to be better for mankind. But have you, in your opinion, seen, if you played the game that we could actually control temperature by mankind's activities, that there is an ideal temperature, that if we actually had a slightly warmer climate, that we'd have more fresh water, perhaps aquifers might be fuller, we'd have better agriculture, and perhaps more comfort in human activity?
No, absolutely we would. If we had the ability to reach up in the sky and turn the big thermostat up there, and everybody could look at the pros and cons of changing today's temperature, I'm sure they would warm it slightly from where it is. We'd have much more agricultural land available to us in the northern latitudes, obviously, as it warmed a little more up there. Generally, warmer air holds more moisture. More moisture means more rain. Crops seem to like rain a lot, and on and on. I mean, it is beneficial to have a warm climate. It is very stressful to have a cooler climate, and a lot of people are feeling that right now. I'm not blaming all the cold spells up north on global warming or anything else. I think it's just another natural cycle because we've had catastrophes like that in the past centuries, if not decades. So, no, you're right. We would like for a somewhat warmer climate. Let's talk about longevity. There are two professors on the West Coast, one from Cal Santa Barbara and the other one from Cal Berkeley, not exactly bastions of conservatism, and they went back and looked at the longevity in the United States, and they found out that the people that voluntarily moved from the Northeast and moved to Florida or Texas or Arizona live longer than their brethren that were left behind. And they say this alone, just these people moving to the South, which is a significant number, have raised the longevity in the United States by 3 to 7%, going into much warmer climates. I mean, they're trying to tell us that it'd be horrible if the climate went up 3 degrees centigrade or something. Well, the difference between New York City and Miami or Houston or wherever down here is up to 19 degrees different for these people that come down here, and yet they live longer. The growing seasons are longer, et cetera, down here. So there's just no common sense going into this issue.
Yeah, if anything, we have significant problems when we have too cold a weather in these areas that we're relying on our food sources from. But Leighton, I have a couple questions for you, and I'm looking at this from a bigger standpoint. I've read quite a few books and articles and published papers coming from different economists and policymakers that are involved with the United Nations. And there's this ongoing talk about too much population, too much industry around the world, and that population needs to be controlled and food has to be controlled. And to me, I think that the global warming, which is now called climate change because global warming doesn't work anymore, it seems to me that it's a movement over power and control, and it's kind of like they have an end game in mind, and whatever they have to fudge the numbers and the studies and the models to show prove their point is what they've been doing. But I'll say this, and you could probably verify this. Even if we were to accept what they're saying, and the U.S. were to enact all types of new legislation and cut back substantially on anything that could possibly pollute the air or create too much carbon or whatnot, would it have any significant change to the entire Earth's populace, especially when you look at a country such as China and India, which have substantially larger populations and are causing much more than we are anyway?
It will have a horrible effect on the Earth's population if they were to actually succeed in doing what a lot of them would like to do, and that would be to take the CO2 level back to where it was 150 years ago before the Industrial Revolution, because there have been some experiments run on that, and it would decrease food production by a significant amount, which would starve a lot of people to death, because what's the number? 1.2 billion of our 7 billion people right now are living on the edge of starvation. So you start taking some food away from them, and you'd get rid of a lot of people. So if you talked about control a while ago, and I think you're talking about really just control by the governments over practically everything that we're doing, particularly through the United Nations. And so I agree with your analysis of that. They've got some ulterior motive, because if they really wanted to help the people that are currently living on Earth, they would allow the CO2 level in the atmosphere to build up, because we all learned in the 3rd grade that carbon dioxide is what plants eat. And all these experiments, and there are over 5,000 peer-reviewed experiments that show what happens to the plants, food crops, and trees when you give them more CO2. And it is astonishing. It really is. So there again, that's what I say. The true environmentalists have been misled. I do agree with you that a lot of what is happening is political. And let me mention this International Panel on Climate Control, which everybody uses them, and they have these big conferences around the world, from Copenhagen to everywhere else. There are 192 countries involved in that. 172 of those countries, the undeveloped countries, would be getting millions of dollars a year from the United States of America and the other developed countries, because we have been polluting their atmosphere ever since the Industrial Revolution by putting carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. That carbon dioxide has been making their food crops grow much better, and we have real experiments that show that that's what's happening. In fact, one of the NASA satellites that's been up since '79 a NASA scientist just found out about a year ago. He said, we have a sensor on that satellite that can measure the greenness of the globe. And he went back and started analyzing all that, and he said the Earth has been getting greener and greener and greener now for 3 decades in a row. And that's despite all the bad stuff we're doing to it, which I admit I'm usually on the other side on a lot of these environmental issues. But we've been paving everything in sight with concrete and asphalt, and we've been clear-cutting the rainforest. And despite that, Earth is getting greener. And it's getting greener because we're fertilizing it with what it needs, and that's carbon dioxide.
Yeah, I was going to, it's funny you said that because I was going to ask you, when you look at the trends around the globe, is the Earth getting greener? Because it appears to me that it is, but I have to say this before I let you answer. We live here in New Jersey, which is, probably has more Superfund sites than any other state in the nation, or perhaps in the world, who knows. And we have incredible farming, even though we keep building on top of it, but there are farms that create all types of agriculture in New Jersey, and it's been we're the Garden State for a reason. So obviously the Industrial Revolution, the amount of manufacturing and industry that we've had in and around us for so many years, hasn't had a negative impact in that respect. Now, let me just qualify this statement. Of course, as conservatives, we are not for, polluting the grounds, and we're certainly conservatives with regards to protecting our environment to begin with, meaning when I go camping, I don't leave my garbage behind. I be careful not to disturb the environment and the land that we're, using, and we respect it. We recycle as much as we can and be smart about the way we go about living our lives. And
yeah, that's great.
That's a smart way to being an environmentalist, right?
Yes, sir. That is correct. They just happen to be misled now because of all this information that's been coming out. There are so many people either making money off of this or even in academia getting promotions off of it, that it's just been terrible that people have been so misled, even to the point of everybody calling carbon dioxide a pollutant. And let me say this, there is not one example of carbon dioxide being a pollutant. It is not a pollutant.
One last question, and we're running short on time. We had that talk going back years ago of the big hole in the ozone and how devastating it was going to be for the Earth. But it seems to me that they don't even mention that anymore, and it doesn't. Whatever happened with that?
Well, a good thing happened to that. They found out that some of these fluorocarbons or whatever were going up there and reacting in the atmosphere and reducing that amount that was in the air that was actually shielding us from some of the solar radiation that could give people skin cancer and stuff like that. As soon as they got rid of that one product that was coming out of the refrigerants that were going into our, air conditioners and things like that, that hole started healing. So that was a good thing that happened on that particular instance. But you don't hear much about it anymore because that hole is continuing to heal, and so you don't have the catastrophic forecast coming out of it that they like to put before us every night on our screens.
Well, that's great. Well, Leighton Steward, if you could please share the website so our listeners and followers can get more information and, of course, follow what you're working on.
You bet. The website that I'm the chairman of, a not-profit, it's called plantsneedco2.org, www.plantsneedco2.org. And then we have another 501c4 that's CO2isgreen.org. And go to the NASA scientist website, therightclimatestuff.com, and this is a real bright bunch of people that aren't beholden to the administration anymore because they are retired, thank goodness.
Well, terrific. We've got them both posted right now, and all three websites posted into our chat room. So we'll certainly, we do check those out from time to time. And Leighton, it's always a pleasure to speak with you, and I hope things are going well with you.
Hey, you bet. Thank you for letting me on again.
Okay, take care. Have a great day.